Welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. Your host, Jill Hart, the coach's Alchemist. Couldn't be more excited to have you join us today. On this podcast, we celebrate the champions of change, the up-and-coming life, health and transformational coaches who are fearlessly stepping forward to make a difference in the world. Get ready for inspiring stories, practical tips, and powerful moments that will motivate you to make a positive change in your life and those around you. We're happy to have you join us on this incredible journey as we dive into the world of life, health, and transformational coaches who are lighting up the path towards a better tomorrow.
Hi, and welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. Today we have with us Heather Zeitzwolfe. She is a profit advisor and a business coach and a CFO, as well as a CPA. So she's also the host of a podcast, Get Radical with Your Business. And she's all about stopping the guessing game with your business and finances. Welcome to the show, Heather. It's really great to have you here.
Thank you for having me. This will be very fun. I love the combination of woo and finances.
Yeah. And they do go together. I mean, it doesn't, when people think of finances and bookkeeping, there's like the maths get you, the numbers. Oh my God, they're going to come out of the woodwork and steal you away. But they're not really, like, I hated math when I was growing up.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay.
I was terrible at it. Probably because we kept moving, and math is one of those things that's sequential. You have to like go along and learn. If you learn the basics, you're pretty good. You have a good foundation. But if you don't learn how to multiply and divide and add and subtract in your head, you're screwed.
Yeah, and it is all sequential, especially when you get to algebra. Like you have to have a solid foundation of one thing to jump to the next thing. And kids today, they have calculators, they've got computers. So truth be told, I am not one for math in my head. People always give me a hard time because I'm like, wait, what is that? And they're like, you're a CPA, you should know this. And I'm like, dude, I use a calculator or spreadsheets all day. Like, I don't have that, but you do need the basic skills of how to do those things. Yes. So
yeah, but it's more like a puzzle. I think accounting and bookkeeping is more like a puzzle than it is a math problem.
It can be very puzzly, especially when people aren't doing it correctly, which unfortunately a lot of people that go into business, first of all, they go into business because they have a passion for something, which is wonderful, but they may not have a passion for numbers. And so their financial side gets kind of neglected, or they may think like, oh, I don't want to spend money on a bookkeeper. Oh, there's this software. I can just use this software. And I just hook up my bank and blah, blah, blah. And they think, oh, okay. And they just cut corners there, but it can turn into a big hot mess. And then that hot mess then comes to someone like me that has to unravel that puzzle. So there is a lot of like detective work. It's very Nancy Drew. I love that side. I actually enjoy that side of it. But sometimes it can be years of going, years of unraveling, so you never know how deep that rabbit hole may go.
Just being a penny off could really be thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars, or in the government's case, millions and billions of dollars, because apparently they're not all that particular about their accounting processes.
But with the woo part of it, like, if you go back to the Renaissance time, like math was like alchemy, there was like this whole, like, like it's almost like this magical thing. And it's kind of cool. I mean, these like weird, I was going to call weird sciences, but alchemy, I'd have to look up the actual definition of alchemy, but it feels like it's like magic with science combined.
Magic is just science that hasn't been explained yet.
Oh, okay.
So numbers help us to explain things. And really, I think it draws reality out of the woo for you when it comes to accounting. You take something that's like, it's all out there, all the possibilities are out there, and you bring them into focus. Like, and it's even a forecasting tool, like predictions.
Mm-hmm.
It's there's some like mystical stuff to it, in that if you know what your numbers are, you can know what you need to hit in terms of planning, and you can know what the outcome's going to be. You can figure out how much you can expect to make based on the numbers. Data is so important.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear you say that, because it is important. I mean, it's important for us to look to the past so that we can understand what the future holds.
Mhm,
And again, accounting is backward thinking, but you have to have those tools, that information in place, so that you can have a crystal ball, and maybe in a spreadsheet, but to look towards the future. And some of it is going to be guesswork, gut, your gut intuition. So it's
mhm,
it's based on that internal, uh maybe it's like, I call it like from your gut, like your intuition. But
mhm,
then also it has to be centered in reality, like actual data and numbers. So there's yeah, there's a balance between it.
mhm. It's it's pretty amazing, and it's not as hard as people might think it's going to be, because a lot of it is bank account driven. There are a lot of other pieces to it, and it's really easy to like get it all tangled up, and especially just start bringing in credit cards and interest and buying buildings and doing all the other things to it. But just, what are your suggestions to people that are just starting out, or maybe they've been in business for a while but they're really not in business because they're not keeping track of their finances?
Yeah, like you said, it doesn't have to be difficult. People actually make it more difficult than it needs to be, because when they start a business, oftentimes they, like I mentioned, they have a passion. They're like, oh, I'll just put this on my personal credit card, or I'll pick this up at the store. And oh, I guess this is going to go in my business. And now all of a sudden, then they're like, oh, I guess I'm supposed to get a business bank account. And now they're like, oh, I got to pay my electric bill, but I don't have any money in my personal, I'll just use my business. And they're like, now all of a sudden it's all like commingled. And that just makes it more difficult. Like if you are going to start a business, like open up a business bank account. If you are unable to, like, go to the bank, or like get an LLC or whatever it is, that, like, if you want to be a specific like entity structure or all that kind of stuff, at least just get a separate bank account to start off with. Like if you're not sure you want to, like, how much money you want to sink into this business or whatever, just get a separate bank account, and just make sure that things are separate. Take regular draws. Don't be paying your personal bills out of your business. Like set it up like a business and treat it like a business. And it makes it so much easier when it comes to like tax time and that sort of thing. And a lot of times people are just, the only reason why they're tracking their receipts and all that stuff is for tax purposes, because they have to. But really the sad part is that they should be really tracking it for themselves, because if they've got a business, they should be knowing what's going on. But I think a lot of times people they don't want to know what the reality is. It's almost like not going not going to the doctor. Like, oh, if I don't go to the doctor, I won't know if I'm sick or not. Like people would almost rather not know. And
Yeah.
it's sort of the same thing, it's like, okay, put your big girl pants on, or big boy pants, and look at your numbers and see where you're at. And, sometimes it is going to be a grim reality, but knowing that is a grim reality, then you can take action and put things in place. Like maybe your pricing needs to change, or maybe you're not working with the right clients, or, I mean, there's so many different things. Maybe it's like you have to find different vendors, or maybe you're overspending in a certain area that you don't need to. But you have to examine these things. Otherwise, it's just it's just guesswork. And unfortunately, yes, I believe in intuition and all of that, but sometimes it's a little off. Where we can sometimes be wearing rose-colored glasses or something, or they look at their bank statement, they're like, "Oh, there's money in there," and they think, "Oh, I got money," but then they, again, it could be things could be commingled. We don't know. Like maybe you actually have more expenses that you had on your personal card that you haven't moved over to the business yet, and it's actually not as good as you thought it was. So there's many different factors in there. So yeah, just start from beginning. Separate your finances. That's the easiest thing you can do.
Another good reason to actually get a business credit card is you build business credit instead of living on your own credit, which you can really screw up your own personal credit having a business and running it on your personal credit.
Well, and also if you are set up as like an LLC, you want to make sure that you're putting things in that LLC's name. So you'll get an EIN from the IRS, then you go to the bank with that EIN, and you want to keep things separate, because the worst thing, I mean, the whole idea of having an LLC is for that protection. And I'm not a lawyer. And as far as like any of this information that we talk about today is just for informational purposes. This is not tax advice or anything. But, if you do have an LLC, open up the bank account and then treat it like a business, because what can happen is if you are audited or you're sued or whatever happens, they can do this thing called piercing the corporate veil. So if you are commingling all your stuff to the IRS or whoever's, government entity that, if you're getting sued or whatever, it's going to look like you're like, it's all mingled together. Like where does the LLC start and stop? You gotta treat it as a separate business. It's a business and has its own things. And then you have your own credit cards and all of that kind of stuff. Exactly.
Yeah. And the LLC can have its own credit score. I think a lot of people don't realize that, but it can have it's its own entity. It's like you gave birth to a child and it's living off there on the side.
Yeah. Treat it separately.
So what would you suggest to people if they're just starting out, or if they've been going along and haven't really, maybe they've been practicing their coaching business, or they're started a business and they're making a little money. It's maybe not consistent, but they've put off doing all of these things. And they are commingling their funds, because, that's generally what people do when they first start. So what would you suggest to those people? How do they get it straightened out now before the mess gets worse?
Yeah. So recognize that that's your situation. There's no shame in it. So many people have been in that same situation. You come see someone like me that can help you make sense of it, divide it up, and then just start clean. And it doesn't mean that you have to be in a bookkeeping software. It could mean that you just put things in a spreadsheet. It really depends on the way that you are going to be able to keep this up. If you can't afford to have a bookkeeper or something, what is a system that will work for you that you will be consistent with? Is it writing things on a calendar or putting it in a notebook? Like, just keep things organized, and that way you can go back and look at it. If you don't have a lot of transactions, a spreadsheet is totally fine. I see some people jumping into using online tools like QuickBooks or Wave or whatever way too soon. Like, it's not complicated. Like, there's not enough going on. There's no reason to pay for software if you're not bringing in that much money. You don't have that many transactions. But there are, low cost ways, like Wave is another solution. But again, you have to know what you're doing, because otherwise you can kind of monkey it up. And then what happens is it costs more for somebody to clean it up and make sense of it. So you might as well just start off on the right foot, have somebody that knows what they're doing help you set it up, and then you can go from there and see, can you hire somebody else or not? But envelope systems work. I mean, people do something that you'll stay consistent with.
Would you say that if you at least would take your bank statements and your credit card statements, and if you purchase everything that you purchase using one credit card and it's only for your business, if you just keep those statements in a folder when you go to your accountant and I would suggest, at least quarterly, if not monthly, have them do an income statement and a balance sheet. And then if you do any purchases, put those big purchases, put those receipts in there too.
Yeah,
It's
I
just
mean,
like, it's so simple that
we live in this day of, everything is electronic, and most banks, except for maybe some small credit unions, will allow you to get what they call a CSV file, which is like an Excel file that you can just download from their website. It has all the transactions already in a spreadsheet. Like, now all you have to do is categorize them. So if you don't have that many transactions, this is a really easy way to do it. I've created spreadsheets, that I share with my clients where they can categorize things very, very easily, and it just tallies it up. And then you have the banking, the checking on one tab, you have the credit card on the other, and you keep track of the income that's coming in and the different expenses. It can be super easy. It doesn't have to be complicated. And I really believe in keeping it as simple as possible.
Yeah. And when you're just starting out, there's just not that much, honestly.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
it
not
depends
like,
on what kind of business you have. Like, if you have a lot of like equipment and startup costs and that sort of thing, it depends on the business. But if you're talking about like coaches and stuff like that, maybe it's some software, maybe it's a laptop. Other businesses I work with, they might have to buy like a food truck and then all the things that go into it, or they may have an Airbnb that they're setting up and they buy furniture, and there's like all these different things. But if it's just like a coaching business, it's pretty simple. And I know I have some clients that do consulting and like grant consulting and that sort of thing. They have very little expenses, I mean, they have some, but so it depends on what kind of a business it is, what kind of, don't make it any harder than it needs to be. Just keep it all separate.
yeah. And thus ends our conversation.
Now, also though, one of the key things about tracking this stuff is knowing if you should be sending in money for taxes. So
Yeah,
you are starting your own business, if you came from the corporate world, you're used to your employer taking out the money and sending in the taxes for you. Well, now you're your own employer, so you have to take that responsibility and send money in. Now it depends on, a lot of other factors, as far as like maybe your spouse is making a certain amount of money, or you've got another job or other side hustles and that sort of thing. So there's factors that come into play, but take responsibility and send it in, because otherwise you may end up with penalties. And who wants to pay penalties? And penalties are not an expense that you can deduct from the business. So that is just stuck on you. So and I don't like to pay extra for anything.
It's like interest.
Yeah.
Don't pay it if you don't have to. And that brings us to Social Security taxes. You're used to maybe your company paying that, both sides of it, because it's actually, there's two sides to that. You pay half and the company pays half. But when you're self-employed, guess what? You get to pay both sides.
Yeah. So that is one thing that kind of is a rude awakening for many people, is the self-employment tax. So they may even feel like, well, wait a minute, I have all these other deductions. And that's like, you look at the front side of the tax return and you think like, oh, okay. But that doesn't matter if you have all those deductions on that front side. If you still made money in your business, guess what? You flip that tax return over. I'm talking about the old paper ones. And what? There's self-employment tax. So you may get hit with that. So keep in mind that, yes, the government wants their money. So you can't, there's no way around that. So that can be like something that people are just like, wait, what? I can't believe this, so.
And as a person who's reached the age of Social Security, I can tell you that it's important that you actually have some gainful employment along the way. So being self-employed and paying that self-employment tax has allowed me to qualify for Social Security. There are a lot of people out there who are maybe not quite to the Social Security age, and they're unaware of some of the changes that have happened in Social Security. Like, you have to have worked within the last 10 years of collecting Social Security, which I have a friend who she had to pick up a job because
Wow.
she's been homeschooling her kids and living on a farm and doing all that stuff, but has no income that she's paid into Social Security. You don't have to pay a lot, but you have to pay something in for the last 10 years. Even if you had a big corporate job and you made hundreds of thousands of dollars, but it was 20 years ago, you met the 40 quarter thing, you're I think it's 40 quarters. Your basis for what you're going to get is going to be based on that, but you still have to have that 10-year thing in there, or you don't get anything.
Yeah, and a lot of people think like, oh, well, Social Security is going to be gone by the time might get it, but who knows? And you might as well contribute towards it. This is a terrible thing I'm going to talk about, but and this is, my father is long dead, but back in like the 70s, I remember he had a business and he had an employee that worked for him, and she was paid under the table. And so she went to retire, she had no Social Security, like, because for years she had been paid under the table. So
yeah, it's not in your best interest to get paid under the table.
No, I mean, one, it's like you're supposed to be claiming this money to the IRS anyways if you're living in America, but it's just gonna bite you in the butt in the end anyways, because now you're not putting any money away. So
And
play by the rules.
It's not a benefit. It's not something that everybody just automatically qualifies for when they hit whatever the retirement age is. It's something that it's an insurance. It's something that you're contributing to, you're paying a premium on, so that you can get a reward at a certain agreed upon point. But there's rules about it. And we don't talk about this in normal society, and so you have people that are hitting the retirement age and they're like, what?
Well, can I just say though that when you told me that you're collecting Social Security, I was kind of blown away because you look way too young.
I'm 64.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, thank you.
I thought you were much younger, so I was like, what? Okay.
But we just had to start looking into it because we were getting close to that point. And there's another thing that is out there that most people don't know about, and that's you can collect half of your spouse's Social Security if it's more than yours. You can collect the difference, and you can collect your ex's half of your ex's Social Security if neither of you remarried, or if you didn't remarry.
Oh, okay. Well, that's very
if you were
interesting.
married for at least a year, or I think in my case it had to be 10 years. There's a 10-year thing in there somewhere, which I thought was really interesting also. And I hadn't known about that, but my dad told me about that, because a lot of back in the 70s and 80s, when women were they weren't really making that much money, and then their husbands, they supported, their husbands going through school, and then their husbands supported them, and then they get divorced, and so now these women had nothing. And I think that's when those laws started coming into play. But
yeah, I know. Yeah, I know when my dad passed away, my mom was still alive. She got her amount was altered a bit. So it did go up. I'm not an expert in Social Security, and I will say that, every year, things may change. So just make sure that, you're looking at maybe what year you're going to retire. If there's, things that tax stuff always changes, and there's like always things that are going to sunset. So there's like things that are active today may have a certain time where they expire, and or something new comes in. So yeah, but it's always good to like not rely just on Social Security, but to have other means of retirement. So if you are able to put towards a Roth, that's a great way to it doesn't lower your tax burden, but you take the money now and it grows over time, and then when you take it out, you don't have to pay tax on the gain. So that's a great thing. But if you are self-employed, you can have like a solo 401k or something like that. It helps reduce your taxes, and you're putting money towards your future as well. So it's good to, I'm not a financial planner, but so I can't speak on like certain things, but I can say it's good to diversify, and put your money in different places. So high risk, low risk, it depends on, you can look at what year you plan to retire. And the thing is that we live in this time where things are rapidly increasing in price. And where I live in Portland, the rent has just like exploded. A mortgage, not mortgage, I'm sorry. Well, the mortgage interest now has gone up, but real estate tax has really gone up. So people have maybe had their home, they paid it off a long time ago. All of a sudden now the property tax is like shot up to the point where they can't even afford to live in a house that's already paid for. And so that's really sad. And then you see like a lot of older people working, and I always talk to them to see like, is it by choice? And someone will be like, I was so bored, retired, I wanted to work, okay, that's fine. But then when you see some people that just look like, oh my God, you feel so bad. It's like, this is their only option. Like they're just not making enough. They probably didn't get enough from Social Security or whatever it is. And it's just very expensive to live now. So so we have to kind of think about our future, and especially if you're getting close to that age. But
now is always the best time to think about your future when it comes to planning for, what's your life going to look like when you're older and you don't have the energy that you had when you're in your 20s and 30s and 40s, because it arrives quickly, more quickly than you will anticipate. Trust me on this. And it's not that hard to save, even if it's just a little bit, $50 a month or a week, if you can, just put it aside and invest it in something. You never know, and put it in different somethings. Don't just like depend on like the stock market, or I like cryptos. I'm doing really well right now.
Oh, good for you. I did not have that kind of luck.
I didn't just do cryptos. I did gold and silver, and I did stocks and mutual funds and 401ks. And I mean, we did a lot of different things, not just one thing. So, sometimes some things go up and some things go down, but we didn't get wiped out when, if the stock market crashes. It's not the end of the world for us.
Yeah. And things always, they go up, they go down, it's like, you just kind of have to ride it out. And as long as it's diversified, then you should be okay. And yes, some things are going to be, it's can be kind of like gambling at times, but hey, I'll tell you, it probably pays better odds than going to Las Vegas and putting money into machines. And I have a lot of family members that have worked in the casino industry, and the house is always, it's built for the house to always win. So yes, you might win a few $100 here and there, but really putting money into a retirement fund is a much safer place rather than just putting quarters into a machine. So yeah. And now they don't even have quarters. Now they just, you put in a ticket in there. So it takes away that whole thing, and it just draining your bank account.
I don't get that. I've never been one for, I'll buy lottery tickets, but I won't do, I lived in Vegas. I graduated from high school in Las Vegas, but
Oh,
never, just the whole gambling thing is like, I don't see the point.
yeah. And I mean, I know people have addictions to it, and it's that rush of like, oh, am I gonna win? And sometimes you can get lured into those things, it's like, but you have to have a conversation with yourself, like, am I okay to lose X amount of dollars? Because that's probably what's gonna happen, and be able to just walk away when that happens. I'm one of those, if I do win, I'm like, I'm cashing out, like, because it's
Yeah.
like,
It was yeah. Or you put a quarter in and you suddenly win big windfall. And by that I mean like maybe
yeah.
$10. It's like, what? Dinner.
Yes.
That's how I am too. Yeah, when it comes to planning for your future, and it kind of goes back to understanding what your end game is for when you create your business. What does success look like for you, and plan for it, and
Yeah, because some people may
plan in the
want to
beginning.
actually sell the business, or they want to give it to a family member. Or maybe, I mean, I work with a lot of women who are later in life where, maybe their corporate career's over. Maybe they are in retirement and they're like, I'm bored. I want to start a business. Or maybe their spouse has passed away and now they have to like think about like, oh, okay, now know, maybe they were working part-time or something before, but now it's like, I need more money coming in. Or, I mean, there could be a variety of things. The pandemic, of course, like changed everything. I mean, the whole world changed, but a
Mhm.
lot of people were kind of forced out of work, and it is tougher for people. I'm 55. It is just tougher to find a job when you are older, because companies are not supposed to, be ageist or anything. But I've talked to people who have said that like when they took away their year of graduation off of their LinkedIn page, they got more responses after they did that, like that were older like me. So
Mm.
or they took away some of their prior experience because it was so much older, that finally like they were getting calls. So I mean, it obviously, ageism is definitely out there. And the young people, more power to them. They know a lot of things about technology and stuff that probably a lot of older people don't know. And but I think the workplace needs a nice balance of people that are older and younger. So it needs a good blend, because
Yeah,
there's different perspectives on everything.
I agree. And I own being old. I love it. I wouldn't change it for the world. It's like I feel like I finally arrived and I can enjoy life now. I don't feel like I have to have a job. But I really haven't had jobs much in my life. I've been self-employed a lot of my life.
Well, that's cool. That's very nice. I mean, that's,
Mhm.
that is a privilege that, like, a lot of people want to take advantage of. And like for me, like, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but there was a side of me that was like always afraid, like, oh, you know, and my parents grew up during the Depression. So I have like a scarcity mindset like built into me. So it's like, oh, but what if I don't make this, or what if I fail and I can't, pay my mortgage, or all these things.
Mhm.
But when you get older in life, you're kind of like, well, wait a minute, if I don't do this now, when am I going to do this? So you have a different attitude. I think it's a little bit easier. I think like when you're super young, you don't know what, all the things
What you
yet.
don't know.
So like you're ready to take more risks. And then when you're in that sort of middle stage of like, oh crap, I owe these things, I got these credit cards, I got student loan debts, it's like, then it's a little bit more difficult to just kind of go out and explore your different ideas. But I think later in life is a good time. I think these are in my 50s. That's when I started my business. Has it been some of the best years of my life? I've met so many people, and you get to work with the people that you want to work with. You're not forced to have clients that are terrible that you don't want to work with. And
Or
and if you come,
co-employees.
yeah, yeah, and office politics. And, and I look back at all those things and it was like, that was really toxic, and I'll admit I was guilty of falling into that kind of stuff, because it's like it's easier to live in a world of negativity and complain, and especially when you're unhappy in your job and stuff. It's like everybody likes to complain, and now I find that my world is way more positive, and I wake up every day excited and not like drained that I have to do something that I can't stand, or feel like I'm undervalued or whatever it is, or have to work on something I don't feel like working on. And so yeah, it's just it's so much better now. And everything is more positive. So
Yeah, I like the positive part of it. I think it's just like, the things that used to bother me or worry me, it just doesn't matter anymore.
well, and I used
So,
to be sick. I used to get sick a lot too, when I was working. And I think not only are you exposed to germs in the office place, but I think it was just the stress of it. And now, even though I know I have to like make my own money and all that, but it's on me. It's not on the relying on other people. Like now I can make my own decisions. And yeah, it's so, even though yes, money has to come in and there's some stress around it, but I'm not stressed out, I mean, sometimes maybe, but for the most part, I'm not. That's a good
so,
place to be though, I think,
so how do people work with you if they want to
Yeah,
get in
thank you
touch
for
with
it.
you?
Yeah. So I have like kind of two sides to my business. One is under Zeitzwolfe Accounting. So that's my last name. And if you go to that website, you'll see I have bookkeeping and tax prep and tax services there. And then I have another website because Zeitzwolfe Accounting is not the easiest thing to spell. So I have another website. If you go to getradbiz.com, so because I like to say like get radical with your business. So getradbiz.com. You can go there and I talk about my profit advising, CFO services. And, I like to work with people one-on-one. I've had group programs. I don't have anything right now, but I do offer free workshops and I have free downloads and things like that. And I've also been super getting into AI. So if you're thinking like, oh, I want to do something with AI, but I'm not really sure what to do, I also offer services and helping you kind of tap into that. And my whole thing is like, it's not about, making AI do something from scratch. Like I'm all about like use your own creativity and use this as an extension of yourself. Like it's like an extra brain for yourself. So, yeah, I just read this was disturbing. I just read this article yesterday about teachers using AI to grade kids' papers and how like teachers are now going to be not very involved in reading like the kids' stuff and knowing what the kids are writing about. And I was thinking like, okay, so the kids are probably using AI to write things, and now the teachers are using AI to grade the papers. Like, where's the human element in all of this? This is terrible. Like, I don't want AI for that. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. So
I'm waiting for AI to become self-replicating, where it becomes an echo chamber, because so many people are depending on it and using it to create content. So AI grabs the content and regurgitates it, and it becomes like telephone, that old game,
yep.
whisper game. I wonder if that won't happen at some point.
Oh, I think it's already happening. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely. And yeah, and the thing is you got to massage it and teach it and rework things. It's not right out of the box. You're not going to get the right response. But again, I like, if you've got a podcast, I work with a lot of podcasters, and from this you get a transcript. You can put now we can use AI to give us a transcript from something. You put that into whatever your choice, if it's ChatGPT or Claude or whatever you're using, and then create show notes or a summary or something like that, and you can turn it into a blog post, and you don't have to use it straight out of what it gives you. then put in your own little finesse. But yeah, I mean, it can be a time saver. I love productivity tools. So I think if it's used correctly, that it can be a great resource. It's just
I agree. And,
yeah.
and sometimes you just need wording. Like
Mhm.
you have an idea and you just don't want to sit there and think about it anymore. It's like, this is what I'm thinking. Make it short and snappy and make it sound like me.
Yeah. Or like taking, like, for instance, for going on podcasts, like oftentimes they'll say, like, give me a bio that's, a few paragraphs. And then another one will say, give me 5 lines. And I'm like, okay, so, you can put it in there and it'll give you some suggestions. Maybe it's not so good, but maybe you can go in there and like steal, like, okay, this sentence, and this sentence, I'll put those together, So
Yeah.
it can be a time saver, but also it can also go on some weird tangents too. So
Yeah. So people can get your profit strategy session off of your website. They can.
Yeah, they can go there if they go to getradbiz.com, and there's a connect button on there. You can just connect with me. You can also find me on Instagram at getradbiz, and yeah, just look me up and just DM me and I'll talk to you. And I'm on Facebook. I've got Facebook groups, and I'm on LinkedIn. And if you're a business owner, LinkedIn is probably the best place to find me. But have a human connection with me and I will have a human connection with you back. The worst thing is on LinkedIn of being like inundated with people just trying to sell me stuff out of the box. So let's get to know each other. And I won't try to sell you anything either. Let's just meet. I love connecting with people. Humans, not robots.
Yeah, exactly. So what's the one thing that you hope the audience takes away from this conversation today, Heather?
Oh, well, hopefully that if you do have a business, or if you're thinking about having a business, think about, how do I treat it like a business? How can I set this up like a business? And, come talk to me. Just drop me a, chat or anything, and I can steer you in the right direction. I've made so many different learning tools. I know I have so many links that I can share with people. I mean, there's so much information out there, but I think it's also, there's so much information that sometimes you don't know where to look to like narrow it down to what you need to do. So
Right.
yeah, just let me know and I'll help you. So
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is great.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another empowering episode of the You World Order Showcase podcast. We hope you've enjoyed hearing from our incredible life, health, and transformational coaches who are making a profound impact on the world. Remember, change begins with you, and you have the power to transform your life and the lives of others. If you want to take that next step and unlock your true potential, visit thecoachesalchemist.com, where you can find the 3 ways we can help you for free to spin your talent into gold with clarity, a system, and a plan. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an inspiring episode. And if you enjoyed today's show, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more people with our positive message. Stay connected with us on social media for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and upcoming guest announcements. You can find us on Facebook at the You World Order, or simply visit thecoachesalchemist.com.